Hey, you're listening to the Riverdale podcast. This is episode number 211. My name is Jonathan. Welcome to lovely Riverdale, USA. Hey folks, this is the Riverdale podcast. This is a weekly Archie Comics fan podcast. We update every Saturday morning, and every week we break things up 4 ways. First up is the book of the week. That's the comic book I read this week. Sometimes it's a new comic book, sometimes it's an old comic book, but it's always an Archie comic. We're going to move then to the news of the week. That's what happened in the world of Archie in the week since our last podcast. Then moving on to new releases. That's what came out this past Wednesday, what will be coming up this coming Wednesday, and your digital releases of the week. And we're going to wrap up today shouting out, of all things, a Twitter feed. There you go. I'll leave you in suspense on that one. I had a great week, you guys. I hope you did too. I'm really excited about this week's book of the week. I just finished reading it. I had really good time. Great way to cap off the week. No better way to cap off the week than talking with you guys. So happy Saturday morning to all of you. If you are interested in helping out the show, a great way to do that is to shout out your support, tweet out your support, let folks know. Friends of yours who are into Archie Comics, let them know about the show. Maybe they'll listen to it. Maybe they'll like it too. Another great way to help out the show is to support the show financially over at patreon.com. Patreon.com/Riverdale podcast will bring you to a page. I'll have a little video. I'll talk to you. You can see my smiling face. And there you can sign up and set up a monthly donation. You can choose any amount that you'd like, and that helps support the show, helps pay for hosting costs, helps pay me a little bit of money to make this happen for you guys every single week. So please consider that, patreon.com/Riverdale podcast, and thanks to everybody who's doing that currently. Let's do it, guys. Let's jump right into it. Let's get into the book of the week. For this week's book of the week, I just reached into, I've got a few short boxes on my bookshelves that are just all Archie comics, and they're mostly organized. So I just kind of reached in and grabbed an issue and pulled it out, and it just so happened to be Archie and Me, number 96, from, dated October 1977. So this is actually a summertime issue. And is dated to sort of stay on the stands for a while. It says here in the indicia on the first page, is published 9 times a year: January, February, April, June, July, August, and September and October. So I'm going to assume this probably came out in August. And there's a lot of summertime stories in here. A lot of summertime stories, in fact. That involve Archie at camp, which is fantastic, at Camp Wahoo. Now, the Archie and Me title is not something I'm super versed in, that I know a ton about, but of course there was a Reggie and Me, there was a Betty and Me, and with those different titles, the Me in the title was often different people at different times. In this particular issue, the Me in Archie and Me is Mr. Waldo Weatherbee. So we have an entire issue here full of short stories that are largely Archie and Mr. Weatherbee. So if this is your speed, maybe you want to look for these back issues, because the back and forth between these two is relentless in this issue. The cover has a very, very unenthused gag about Archie is out golfing with Mr. Weatherbee, Miss Grundy, and Betty. He's complaining that he got another slice, and Mr. Weatherbee is very upset that he's talking about food. Because there's a billboard in the background for pizza. It's not a good gag. You can go ahead, do a Google search for Archie and Me number 96. I'm sure that it'll come up. Of note, there's a few terrific ads in here as well that I'll sort of hit as we get to them. Immediately on the inside of the front cover is the Farrah Fawcett fan club, which sports that sort of iconic 1970s Farrah Fawcett like swimsuit poster. So lest we forget, we are in the 1970s. Farrah is here to remind us. So the first story we get into is called Archie and Me in F for Effort. And as I said, this takes place at a summer camp, but it's basically all of the dynamics from Riverdale High just transported to summer camp. It's a lot like those Saved by the Bell episodes where they like just go work at a resort or whatever. Maybe that's a bad example. I don't know. But all of the high school dynamics are there. They just are in a different setting. It's almost pointless. And Mr. Weatherbee is wearing a shirt that says Camp Director. A little boy is sort of running by, shouting to his friends, and he's wearing a shirt that says Camp Wahoo. And that is really the only indication, the only indicator of what this camp is called or anything like that, or why they're at camp in the first place. So Mr. Weatherbee has a shirt that says Camp Director. Archie has a shirt that says Counselor, so we're immediately informed as to what their roles are. It's particularly good because Mr. Weatherbee is wearing this hat, and it looks almost like a safari-style hat. It's got a brim all the way around it, probably to keep the sun out of his eyes, off the back of his neck, whatnot. But the way that it's colored is just a solid red, so it really comes off like a Devo hat in a lot of panels. It's not particularly flattering. It's really goofy. And it doesn't help that, with Mr. Weatherbee's sort of proportions and the way that he's drawn to be sort of a portly dude, it just makes him look even more dorky. Not to mention the fact that he's wearing shorts with tall socks. Fantastic. In this first story, as I said, F for effort, Mr. Weatherbee is putting up a sign that says, "A little extra effort makes the difference." And what proceeds to happen is that Archie takes this to heart, puts in a little extra effort, and just proceeds to ruin everything in camp. Insofar as ripping up a rare species of plant, literally luring a bear into the center of camp, which is fantastic, leading a group of campers out and then attempting to guide them back by the stars, but it is not dark, and it begins to rain. So Mr. Weatherbee gets fed up and amends the sign by the end of the story with another sign that says, it says, "A little extra effort makes the difference," and then the amending sign says, "But from Archie, I want no effort at all." Pretty fantastic. We also get in here one of those fantastic 70s Hostess cupcake ads. Now, if you are unfamiliar with these, maybe younger folks listening, or folks, I mean, these were gone, I think, by the time I was reading comics in the 80s. But if you go back, I feel like these came around in the 70s and maybe went up until 82, 83. There might be some more learned folks who can school me on these. But these were really like an early form of native advertising, because when you turn from one-page gag to another full-page, one-page story, you could easily forget that you're reading a Hostess ad until you get to the very bottom panel where they're all talking about moist devil's food cake, that fudgy icing, that creamed filling. These advertisements are just a full-page story drawn by usually artists who work for the company that the advertisement is put in. So in this case, this is a Josie and Valerie story with Alexandra in here as well. And it seems to be drawn. My guess is probably Stan Goldberg, although it could be Dan DeCarlo. My guess is Stan Goldberg. So it looks just like the page prior to it. But in this particular Hostess cupcake ad, Josie and Valerie are, just sort of dismayed by Alexandra showing off. And they decide to play a trick on her by calling up and ordering a big party. And in one of the final panels, the ABC party service pulls up, and a gentleman in an ABC party service shirt hands her the bill, and she's very, very upset until Josie and Valerie explain to her that it's not a big deal. They're going to have a great party. And here, Josie and Valerie have brought delicious Hostess cupcakes. So there you have it. Even mortal enemies like Josie and Valerie and Alexandra Cabot can get along. In fact, Alexandra goes from a very angry-looking face to a disturbingly overjoyed face between the two panels when these moist devil's food cake cupcakes come into play. Awesome. I love those Hostess ads. As I said, they had one starring DC characters and Marvel characters. There's if you look online, there's a repository that has all of them, which is pretty amazing. So a good slice of the past there. We get a half-page little Jinx story, which is pretty good. We get Archie's gag bag, which is two 4-panel kind of comic strips, which I assume are from Bob Bowling's 1960s comic strip. Although maybe he ran it into the 70s, but some older comic strips that are colorized and put in here, some daily strips. There's an ad for a scary life-size monster ghost. It's over 7 feet tall and only costs $1. So don't miss out on that. 100 little dolls for $2.50. A plan that will give you very strong arms for just $3.98. And there's a terrific story in here. The next story we come to, Archie and me, in Understand? ? And mostly what I came out of this story with, the impression I got from this story is that the 1970s were a very different time for discipline and in relationships between educators and their students, because there's an amazing panel in which Mr. Weatherbee calls Archie a dummy. Archie comes in to get something from his office, and Waldo says, it's over there. And Archie says, where? And he says, that corner, dummy. Can't you see it standing there? It's amazing. And of course, Archie messes up and knocks something over. And Mr. Weatherbee says, Archie, you beanbag, you awkward clown. I don't know if anybody could get away with saying those sort of mean things to anyone these days, which I think is a fantastic thing. And there's a little bit of a role reversal here. Mr. Weatherbee says, Archie, do you know how I feel? Do you know, what would you do in this situation? So there's a role reversal, and Archie grabs Mr. Weatherbee by the lapels and says, I've had it with your incompetent and clumsy, bungling nature, and goes on to, strike Mr. Weatherbee with a book and stuff, and, kick him in the butt and, throw him out of the room. Which I assume is Archie, mirroring or mimicking the behavior that he has seen from Mr. Weatherbee. So that's kind of horrifying. That's really amazing. There's an ad here where here's your Archie 3-for-$1 checklist. There's a great coupon you can cut out if you're living in 1977. And if you're living in 1977 and listening to this, please send me an email. I want to know all about it. It's a checklist of a bunch of current books at the time, and you could just pick 3 of them and send in your $1, and they'll send them right to you. That's fantastic. There's a story called Archie and Me in Sound Thinking, in which Mr. Weatherbee attempts to play it cool, and it does not work very well, as you might imagine. I'm trying to think, what other things do we need to hit? We need to hit Crazy David. Buy any t-shirt, $4. There's some fantastic... I'm sorry, I'm just talking about the ads. The ads are fantastic. There are all of these t-shirts. I'm with Stupid, Stupid's with me, Disco Duck, very important for that era, Starsky and Hutch, the Bionic Kid, Kiss, Led Zeppelin, Wings, Don't Bug Me, I Bite. I don't know what that is, really. Maybe that was important at the time. I wasn't around in 1977. I guess I should state that. Yeah, good stuff. And I want to end talking about the Archie Club news. There's a little coupon you can fill out with your name, your age, your address, and I guess you probably send in some sort of money. 50 cents to cover postage and handling, and you get to join the Archie Club. You are eligible to win cash prizes. You get an Archie Club button, a Archie Reporter press card. That's very exciting. I'd love to have one of those. I mean, I guess longtime listeners of the show know that I love to read the reports that folks sent in. This was an ongoing contest. You would write a brief report. They're generally sort of glorified paragraphs, at least when they're printed back in the issues. And each issue, and these issues, these reports showed up in many of the titles back then. I'm not sure how many prizes they were giving out a month, but you could send in your report, and it might get printed here in the comic, and then you would get a cash prize along with that. So if you will allow me the indulgence, I would love to read you the first prize report. This went with a cash prize of $6. I guess it's important to note that in 1977, an issue of Archie and Me cost 35 cents. So $6 was, nothing to sneeze at, especially for a kid. And this is from Jill Piacente, I'm going to say. Piacente? Dear Archie, my friends and I formed a club called Help Now. The first call we got was from an elderly lady who wanted her dog walked. I took the job, and she paid me $1 a walk. I did the job for 2 weeks, and I made $14. I gave half the money to my mother for groceries. We started to get a lot of calls from people who wanted us to do odd jobs. We became so busy that we opened an office in the basement of our building. Okay, it doesn't state here how old this person. I was just checking. Business was great, and I made $72.84, half of which I gave to my mother to help with the household needs. But after a while, things began to slow down, and we eventually ended our business. But after a year of being closed, we just got a call from someone who wanted our help. It made me sad to tell him that we were out of business. That's a report that got you $6 in 1977. I love the idea that this child would not just do the job for some money. She didn't have a job in a year, she said. That's really strange. I don't know why it's important that your business... I don't know. Maybe that's not funny to anyone but me. But there you have it, guys. I had a really, really fun time with this issue. I like that they just pick up the Riverdale High dynamics and put them in summer camp in the summer. Why not? I would love to see more of that. It's fantastic. Mr. Weatherbee just looks furious throughout the entire issue. I wish you guys could see these panels. Maybe this will warrant a video at some point. I'm going to check out some more issues of this. If I find more stuff, I will be talking about it more in the future. I had to Instagram one of these panels as soon as I got to it. Great stuff. Good art. Sorry about no credits on this issue. No credits in the issues of this era, so nothing to report there. But there it is. There you have it. Fun times with Archie and Mr. Waldo Weatherbee. In this week's Book of the Week, Archie and Me, number 96. All right, folks, in Archie news this week, a couple pieces of news, I guess. The Sonic the Hedgehog comics are coming back. There's sort of been a bunch of delays on those issues. New stories seem to have dried up around the end of last year, and we haven't seen much of Sonic, but those issues will start coming out soon. They're going to have to play a little game of catch-up to catch up with the solicitations that have been put out thus far. But good news there, Sonic comics are on their way. Also, interesting piece of news, there will be an Archie Comics theme episode of Cake Wars, which I believe is on the Food Network. That's coming up this Monday, the 21st of March. I would love to see this. I don't have any access to the Food Network. Perhaps I'll have to go to a I don't know, maybe my mom's house. Maybe my mom has Food Network. I know it's always on at my sister's house. It's what I watch when I go to hotels, that's for sure. So I've seen this show, Cake Wars, before. People make these elaborate, like seemingly inedible-looking cakes with giant characters on them. I know I saw like a Star Wars themed one before where they built like giant TIE fighters out of cake and stuff. It seems needless and over the top, but it is no doubt entertaining television in short doses. So I would love to see this episode. Apparently John Goldwater appears on it as one of the judges. They usually have a guest judge of some shape, color, description. So should be interesting. If you've got access to the Food Network, definitely check this out. I'll try to watch it before next week. I would love to talk a little bit more about it. So I'll try to get on top of that in the next week, and maybe we can talk about a little more about it on next week's episode. But that's all I got for news this week, aside from Riverdale, the TV show, the pilot for CW, filming as we speak. That's always cool to hear. I'm excited about that. There's news kind of trickling out about that. We'll talk about that later in the show. So there you have it. That's the news of the week. All right, folks, new releases. New releases for this past Wednesday, the 16th of March, are as follows. Archie, Volume 1, trade paperback. If this was not in your shop last week, it should be in your shop this week. Keep an eye out for it. This is, of course, the first 5 issues of the Mark Waid scripted Archie series that launched back last summer. If you're listening to this, you probably know all about it. But the first 3 issues illustrated by Fiona Staples, the 4th by Annie Wu, and the 5th by Veronica Fish. I don't know why pulling that from my memory was so difficult. Sorry. I've taken a look at this collection. It has some bonus material in there. It does feature the first issue of Jughead, if you haven't read that yet. So it's a great jumping-on point for folks who maybe haven't read Archie comics in a while and are getting back into it. It's a pretty good primer for what the quote-unquote like new Riverdale stuff is. I feel like we'll probably talk about this collection at some point in the future. I'd like to do a book club episode about it, because I feel like I talked about the issues one by one as they came out, but viewing them as a full package like this, I think, is something that's worth doing down the road, maybe later on, maybe in the summer months. Take a look back at these issues. Okay, also out this week, World of Archie Comics Double Digest number 57. I haven't read through this issue yet. I did read the opening story by Pat and Tim Kennedy. It was both written and penciled by them, with inks from Jim Amish, letters by Jack Morelli, and colors by Glenn Whitmore. There's a fantastic opening panel. The story is that Veronica and Archie and Jughead are at the movies, and Veronica is just kind of dismissively just looking down at her phone. There's something about the way, you wouldn't have to look too far to get a model of someone just zoned out of the world they're in, just looking down at their telephone. But it's portrayed really, really well. And of course, of all people, Veronica Lodge would be the kind of person to just, drop out of a conversation, drop out of a situation, and just, look at her phone. A great lead story on that. So moving ahead to this coming Wednesday, the 23rd, as I said in the last segment, Sonic comics are coming back. Never fear, I guess. Who knows where they've been or why. I don't know if it's... I have absolutely no idea where they've been. Sonic the Hedgehog number 279. This features a couple different covers, one by Jamal Peppers and one by Rafa Knight. So that'll be out next week. Also out next week, Betty and Veronica Jumbo Comics Digest number 242. And on the digital side of things, this week we got the Archie 75 Years digital exclusive Josie and the Pussycats. This is a cool collection, ladies and gentlemen, for a number of reasons. It's got all your great sort of what I consider to be campy, over the top, like mystery style Josie and the Pussycat stories. But it also has the classic stuff, the She's Josie stories, going all the way back to She's Josie number 1. Of course, the book would go on to become Josie, and then later on down the line would become Josie and the Pussycats with issue number 45. And it's got stories from issues from all of those different eras. Fantastic stuff. Really, really, really good Dan DeCarlo art. Great Stan Goldberg art, I believe, in this stuff as well. Great Frank Doyle stories. Yeah, just fantastic stuff. Of course, letters by Bill Yoshida, colors by Barry Grossman throughout. Just fantastic stuff. So there you have it. I'm sorry, I am scattered. Those are your new releases for this past Wednesday the 16th, this coming Wednesday the 23rd, and your digital exclusive of the week from Archie Comics. All right, finally today, I want to give a quick shout-out to a Twitter feed. As I said at the top of the show, we don't spend a lot of time talking about Twitter on this show, but a brand new feed popped up called Riverdale News. You can find it at it's at CW Riverdale News. Pretty easy to find. I'm sure if you search Riverdale News, you'll find it. But twitter.com/CW Riverdale News. It is hyped as your number one source for the upcoming CW series Riverdale, starring Archie and all his friends. This does not seem to be an official CW Twitter feed, and for that reason, it's a lot more fun, frankly. I'm just scrolling down through. I guess we'll talk about some of the highlights as you go over and subscribe to this on your Twitter feed. Or go and check it out. There's what I found to be really exciting. Just a quick snapshot. Probably went up on somebody's Instagram that they went ahead and reblogged here. The slate, the snapping film slate with the Riverdale logo on it. Really, really exciting. I got really thrilled about that. And they're keeping up with all of the casting news. They're following all the actors and actresses on Twitter and sort of reposting their pictures and stuff as they go up. So if you're excited like I am about the Riverdale series and you're kind of nerding out about it and you want the little bitty, tiny, microscopic little details that are coming out, they're announcing here like where in Vancouver they're filming on certain days, where it's reported that they've been filming, rumors and, not quite gossip, but maybe gossip. There's a photograph of the school where they're filming, Point Grey Secondary School in Vancouver, which I assume is going to be Riverdale High, which is pretty awesome. I don't know, maybe they're using the grounds for another scene. Again, this is sort of gossip and rumor. It's the little things that they're picking up and reporting back to us. But this school would make a great Riverdale High, aside from the Canadian flag hanging outside. That might be a dead giveaway. But really, really rad. And if you want a quick way to find all of the actors who are in the Riverdale pilot, to follow them on Twitter, there's a lot of pictures there that have all of those links, so you can click through and follow all of those folks. So if you're feeling, as I said, nerdy about the Riverdale pilot, that's the place to be, at CW Riverdale News. Cool. On the way out today, I want to remind everybody that there's a new episode of the Riverdale podcast every Saturday morning. You can find that on iTunes, you can find that on Stitcher, and you can always find that at RiverdalePodcast.com. If you subscribe on iTunes, great way to help out the show. A simple, quick, fun way, a hugely entertaining, exciting, thrilling, change your life way to help out the show is to write an iTunes review. If you write an iTunes review, I will give you a shout-out on the show as soon as I read it. So there you have it. If you want to get in touch with the show, there's a bunch of ways to do that. Facebook, Twitter, you'll find us there. You can always send an email to riverdalepodcast@yahoo.com. You can call in and leave a voicemail at 573-427-2443. That's 5734-ARCHIE. You can always head over to riverdalepodcast.com/ask. You can submit a question there. I am an easy dude to get in touch with. I'll be back next week. Probably be taking a look at the June solicitations. Who knows what will happen between now and then. Hopefully the new Betty and Veronica Digest has the next chapter of the many loves of Archie Andrews. I'm really, really loving those stories. In any event, no matter what we're talking about, we'll be here next week. So, with that said, my name is Jonathan. I will see you again soon, right here in lovely Riverdale, USA.